Everyone, welcome back to HQ in the Know, and we're kind of like in our thread series now. Oh, with Adam So Fun, that's me. I was so excited to talk about thread, I just jumped right into it, right? We've talked about threads that it'll use. It will use them all. But now let's talk about different ways to purchase thread. We have spools, we have mini cones, and we have large cones. What can you use on the long arm? All of them. You get to pick. You get to decide which one you want. Now, would I buy a spool of thread if I was gonna edge to edge a quilt? Probably not, because I'm gonna go through a few spools of thread. Usually you get a better buy when you buy the bigger cone, but it depends on what you're doing. You know, maybe you're doing just some accent pieces in a quilt and you just are gonna stitch a little bit. Maybe that spool's gonna be okay for that. But most of the time, I'm purchasing cones because I'm stitching a lot. I can use them in different applications. You know, just because you buy a cone of thread doesn't mean you have to use it on the long arm. You can also use it in your domestic machine. There's cone holders, and I know our Stitch House sells them here, or cone and spool holders, where you can actually use this cone and piece with it on your domestic machine. So make sure you check those out, especially if you are a long armer and you're starting to build up that collection of threads you have. So let's talk the difference. Large cone, small cone. Both of these are exactly the same. You just get more thread on the larger cone. We're gonna thread them the same way. So just like this Omni V that's on our machine back here, we're gonna thread it exactly the same, going up into our thread spool and then through all of our tension kind of pieces. Now, a spool of cone. This is not the Floriani. This is a different spool, but I wanted to make sure I showed you this. This thread right here is we call it straight wound thread. And if you look at it, it just looks like it went on the spool straight. There's no kind of design in it. Whereas, this King Tut, well, that's variegated. That's probably not gonna work. How about this Omni? If you look at this Omni, you can kind of see how that thread is getting wound back and forth. This is called a cross wound thread. So anytime you have a cross wound thread, it's gonna be set up on the machine just like this Omni V. So it's going to sit and it needs to come off. Where's the edge of this? It needs to come off and unwind itself, coming straight up. If it's straight wound, which is like this spool is, it cannot do that. If it comes off that way, it's going to either knot up or unravel, and it's gonna break. You're just not gonna have a great day. So if you are using a spool that is straight wound, that's what we have the horizontal spool pin for. The spool pin, it gets attached dependent on which machine you have. So I'm gonna focus mostly on Amara Forte Infinity. It can attach this way on any of them, but on, let's say, an Avante Fusion and the 16, there is a place you can screw this in up on the top of your machine. But this bar is gonna be added. We'll put that right onto here, right onto your spool pin, or right onto your spool holder. It gets added there and it's gonna come off. Your spool now sits on there, and when it unravels, it's rolling off. So it's spinning itself and coming off the top. So by doing that, it doesn't unravel because it's coming off the same way it was put on. You'll have much better days and you'll have much better luck when using a straight wound thread. Sometimes cones or spools are still straight wound. You just have to look. If you can see the design in the stitching, or if you can see the design kind of like looks like it was going back and forth, then it's cross wound. If you can't, then it's straight wound and you want to use that spool pin. But again, anything works, try it out, love it, you know, and show us what you're making. We'll dive into the threads more in other videos, but that is the difference between cones and spools, straight wound and cross wound. So like I said, try them out. Love thread as much as I do. Please, thank you for joining us. Like always, like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week in the HQ in the Know. Bye, everyone.